The desert wind howled through the mesquite as the old cowboy rode home beneath the bleeding sunset. His horse, a chestnut mare with a scar down her flank, moved slow and steady, hooves stirring up red dust that glowed like fire in the dying light. The cowboy's name was Caleb Ross, though out here, names didn't mean much anymore. Folks only remembered the kind of man you were when the bottle ran dry and the gun smoked. He was thinking about supper beans and silencia when he saw it. Down by the dried Greek bed, something shifted, twitching in the wind like a wounded coyote. He reined in his mare. The motion was small, but it didn't fit the rhythm of the land. The desert only moved when something was alive or dying. Caleb's hand went to his revolver by habit. He listened. The evening was still but for the wind scraping through sagebrush. The sky hung heavy, streaked in orange and purple, promising another cold night. He nudged the mare closer, boots creaking in the stirrups. That's when he saw a burlap sack, old and grimy, and it moved again. He frowned. Maybe it was a trapped animal. Maybe someone's cruel joke. But there was a sound now, a faint, muffled, not the cry of a creature. The sound was small, trembling, and human. Caleb's pulse stumbled. He dismounted, boots crunching over cracked dirt, his shadow long and broken beside him. He crouched by the sack, tugged the knot loose with the tip of his knife. The smell of damp cloth and blood met him. He froze when he heard the whimper, weak, ragged sound from deep inside. "Easy now," he murmured, his voice rough as sandpaper. He opened the sack wider, and his breath caught. Inside, hurled up and half-conscious, was a girl. Couldn't have been more than 18, her skin pale beneath the dirt, her hair tangled and wet with sweat. Her wrists were bound, her lips cracked, eyes fluttering open like she was waking from a bad dream. For a moment, Caleb couldn't speak. He'd seen bodies in worse shape, but something about this breathing scrap of a person stuffed in a bag like trash made his stomach turn. She tried to speak, but no sound came, just a dry gasp. "Hold on," he whispered, cutting her bindings loose. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you now." Her arms fell limp to her sides. She blinked up at him, confused, frightened. The wind picked up, tossing her hair across her face, and she flinched like even the air hurt. Caleb poured the last of his canteen into her mouth. She coughed, then drank greedily, water spilling down her chin. "Who did this to you?" he asked softly. But her eyes rolled back. She passed out before she could answer. Caleb swore under his breath. He glanced around, half expecting someone to ride out of the dusk, laughing, waiting to finish the job. But there was no one. Just the wide, empty land, the dying sun, and this girl who didn't belong to the desert. He lifted her light as a sack of grain and draped her across his saddle. The mare stamped, uneasy, but Caleb's hand steadied her. "We'll get her home," he muttered, more to himself than the horse. "Ain't right leavin' folks to die like dogs." He swung into the saddle and started toward the ranch. The sun slipped lower, painting the land in long shadows. The girl's head rested against his arm, her breathing shallow but steady. The ride felt longer than it was. Coyotes called somewhere in the distance. Caleb's mind kept circling the same thought: who leaves a young woman to die like that? Out here, cruelty wasn't rare, but this felt personal, vengeful. When he crested the ridge, the lights from his small ranch house came into view, a soft, flickering lamplight from the window. Smoke trailed from the chimney. His daughter would be waiting, probably with that stubborn look she got when supper went cold. As he rode into the yard, the door swung open. A little girl of 7 stood framed in the light, her braids bouncing as she ran out. "Papa!" she cried. "You're late." Caleb smiled tiredly, easing the mare to a stop. "Got caught up, sweetheart." But her eyes widened when she saw the limp figure slung across the saddle. "Papa, who's that?" He dismounted, cradling the girl carefully as he carried her toward the porch. "Found her out by the creek. Someone done a terrible thing." His daughter followed close, eyes wide. "Is she dead?" "No," he said, pushing open the door with his shoulder. "Not if I can help it." He laid the girl on the couch near the fire. The warmth filled the room, golden and quiet. Caleb fetched a blanket, covering her, then reached for the basin to wash her wounds. His hands moved slow and gentle, though they were hands more used to ropes and rifles than kindness. His daughter watched silently from the corner, hugging her doll. The cowboy's mind churned. The marks on the girl's wrists, the bruises along her neck, they told a story of fear and running, of someone hunted. When he finally looked up, the girl stirred. Her eyes opened a hazy, frightened and fixed on his face. "Where broken bar, where am I?" she whispered, her voice cracked and dry. "Safe," Caleb said. "You're safe here." She blinked, like the word meant something she'd forgotten. "Earlier they said I wouldn't." She stopped, trembling. Tears welled, cutting tracks through the dirt on her cheeks. Caleb shook his head. "You don't need to talk now. Rest. We'll figure things out come morning." The girl's eyes fluttered shut again. Her breathing steadied. Outside, the wind had gone still. The land was quiet. The kind of quiet that carried secrets. Caleb poured himself a cup of coffee and sat by the fire, staring at the stranger sleeping under his roof. He didn't know her name. He didn't know what she'd done or why someone had wanted her dead. But something about her fascia, it tugged at something old, something buried deep. He couldn't place it. A flicker of memory, gone before he could catch it. His daughter crept up beside him, whispering softly, "Papa?" He looked down. "What is it, May?" She pointed at the girl, voice trembling like she was afraid to say it. "Pepe, a broken bar. She looks like Mama." Caleb froze. For a heartbeat, the room held its breath. The fire popped. The shadows trembled on the walls. He turned to the girl again, studying her fascia, the curve of her cheek, the faint scar near her temple. A cold wave rolled through him. It couldn't be. His wife had been gone for 6 years. Buried beneath the old cottonwood, and yet a broken bar. The resemblance was there, unmistakable. Caleb's heart thudded slow and heavy in his chest. He didn't believe in ghosts, but the desert had ways of making a man doubt his certainties. He looked at his daughter, her small hand clutching his sleeve. "Go on to bed, May," he said softly. "We'll talk in the morning." But even as he said it, he knew sleep wouldn't come for either of them. Because in the flicker of firelight, with her head turned just so, the woman in the blanket looked every bit like the wife he'd buried, only thinner, haunted, a broken bar and impossibly alive. The night hung heavy over the ranch. Outside, the wind had gone still, and the coyotes had quit their singing. Inside, only the fire whispered the soft cracks and sighs that seemed almost too loud in the silence that followed May's words. Caleb sat there a long time, staring at the woman on the couch. Every so often, she'd stir, mumbling something he couldn't quite catch. Her brow twitched, and her fingers trembled like she was trapped in some nightmare she couldn't wake from. He couldn't stop staring. The line of her jaw, the shape of her lips. Oh Lord help him, it was her, or close enough to set his heart to shaking. He rose and paced the floor, boots thudding against the worn boards. His mind ran in circles, chasing sense where there was none. His wife, Leela, had died 6 years ago in a fire that took the barn, half his cattle, and the last piece of his soul. He'd buried what was left of her under the cottonwood tree, the same one she used to sit beneath to sing to baby May. He'd dug the grave himself, his hands blistered, eyes burning from more than just smoke. She couldn't be alive. She couldn't. And yet that fascia broken bar. "Papa?" The small voice came from the hallway. May stood there, her nightgown brushing the floor, eyes wide and uncertain. "I told you to get some sleep," Caleb said gently, though his voice was rough. "I couldn't. She keeps making noises. I think she's scared." Caleb hesitated, then knelt down beside her. "Ain't nothing to be scared of, sweetheart. She's hurt us all." May chewed her lip. "You think Mama sent her, maybe to tell us something?" He swallowed hard. Maybe. She nodded solemnly, the way only a child can believe in miracles without question. Then she padded back toward her room. When she was gone, Caleb turned back to the stranger. He took a deep breath, steeling himself, and pulled a chair closer to the couch. He'd get answers come morning. If she was Lila by some impossible twist, he'd know it. And if not a broken bar, well, then the dead really were restless tonight. The rooster crowed just before dawn. Gray light seeped through the cracks in the shutters, and the desert began to wake. Caleb's eyes were gritty, his back stiff from the chair. The woman on the couch stirred, then gasped as if surfacing from deep water. Her eyes flew open, wild and afraid. She tried to sit up, but her body gave out halfway. Caleb leaned forward, holding his hands up. "Izzy, you're safe here." She blinked, confused, her gaze darting around the room. Where am I?" "My ranch," he said. "Found you out by the dry creek, in a sack." "You remember how you got there?" Her face tightened. Alia broken bar. They said they'd kill me if I spoke. Her voice cracked. Please, don't let them find me. No one's finding you here, Caleb said firmly. Ain't nobody comes this way that I don't see first. Tears welled in her eyes. You shouldn't have brought me here. They'll come for me. Caleb frowned. Who? She hesitated. Her hands shook as she clutched the blanket around her. Men in town. The sheriff, even, said I knew too much. He leaned back, jaw tightening. About what? But before she could answer, the front door creaked open. May peeked in, clutching her doll. Her eyes went straight to the woman, then to her father. Papa, she's awake. Caleb nodded. Go on, make some tea. Sweetheart, we'll all have some. May lingered by the door, studying the stranger. Then, soft as breath, she said, she really looks like Mama. The woman froze. Her eyes flicked to Caleb's face, confusion giving way to something deeper, recognition. She stared at him, her lips parting like she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Leela, he whispered before he could stop himself. Her breath caught. What did you say? He rose slowly, heart hammering. That your name? Leela Ross. She shook her head violently, tears springing to her eyes. Number. But I'm Sarah. Sarah Hale. He searched her face, desperate for truth. You sure about that? She nodded, but her eyes betrayed her haunted, unsure, like someone trying to forget their own reflection. Caleb turned away, rubbing a hand over his stubbled chin. All right, Sarah, you rest. I'll see about something hot to eat. But inside, nothing was all right. He could hear Leela's laughter echoing in his memory of the way she'd tease him when he came home smelling of whiskey and dust, the way she'd hum when she thought no one was listening. And now, standing just a few feet away, was a woman who moved, breathed, looked exactly like her. If this was some trick, it was a cruel one. Later that morning, while May played outside chasing the hens, Caleb sat on the porch with his rifle across his knees. The land stretched out before him, quiet and endless, but his guts said it wouldn't stay that way long. The woman Sarah, as she claimed, sat inside by the window, staring out at the cottonwood tree. He'd caught her looking at it 3 times already. That tree had meaning only to one person, Leela. When he finally went back inside, she spoke first. You buried someone under that tree, she said softly. Caleb's blood went cold. How'd you know that? She didn't look at him. Because I remember the sound of the shovel, the dirt hitting wood, the way you said goodbye. He froze where he stood. The rifle slipped from his hand and clattered against the floorboards. Leela, he whispered. She turned then, tears shining in her eyes. They told me you were dead, Caleb. They said the fire took you and the baby both. I ran till I couldn't remember my own name. He felt his knees go weak. Number. I buried you. I saw they burned the barn with another woman inside. She had my shawl. They made sure you'd think it was me. Caleb's heart pounded in his ears. Who did this? Men working for Holloway, she said, voice trembling. You remember him? The banker you refused to sell the land to? He wanted the property, you wanted it bad. When you wouldn't bend, he made sure to break us instead. Caleb's jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Holloway. He hadn't heard that name in years, but the hate came back like smoke in his lungs. She took his hand in a shaking, warm, real. I didn't mean to find my way back here, Caleb. They came after me again. I ran. I thought I'd die this time. But a broken bar, her voice broke. Your girl found me. He looked toward the door, where May's laughter carried on the wind. His eyes stung. She knew before I did. Lala and oh, Sarah smiled through her tears. Children see what grown folks forget. Caleb pulled her close then, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled, and the desert wind finally exhaled through the open window, carrying the scent of rain. But in the distance, faint as thunder, came the sound of hooves. Leela tensed. They found me. Caleb stood, loading his rifle with practiced calm. Then they'll wish they hadn't. He moved to the door, the weight of 6 lost years pressing on his shoulders but burning away under something stronger, a purpose. Behind him, Leela whispered a prayer. Outside, the riders crested the ridge, black silhouettes against the rising sun. The desert had a way of burying its sins, but this morning, it was about to remember every one of them.